Hey everybody! This video lesson is going along with the lesson in the week 2 module on basic rhetorical patterns. Hopefully you have already read over the PowerPoint, so that's what I'm going to talk about in this video, going through those slides and just hitting some of the highlights. So looking at that PowerPoint, our second slide after the title slide there has a question on it. What do we mean by rhetorical patterns? It sounds like a pretty strange phrase. What the heck does it mean, right? The slide after that attempts to give an explanation. It says rhetorical patterns help you to organize information in a way that is easy to comprehend. Well, that's true. That is exactly what rhetorical patterns do. But that still doesn't really give us an accurate definition of what a rhetorical pattern is. So if you move on to slide 4, at the top it says genres or ways of writing. So now we have used another term. Instead of rhetorical patterns, we replaced it with the word genre. And I'm guessing that most of us are much more familiar with that word than we are with the phrase rhetorical patterns. So what is a genre? We're familiar with that word. If you think about, music, we have different genres of music, right? We have country, folk, bluegrass, rap, R&B, jazz, rock, heavy metal, instrumental, right? There's all kinds of genres of music. Another way we could say that is there are plenty of categories of music, right? So when you're dealing with one of those genres, let's say, country music, there are going to be certain elements that all of the music in that genre have in common. Now, not all the music in that category is exactly the same, but they share enough similarities that they get categorized under that genre, right? We do the same thing with movies. We have romantic comedies, action adventure, sci-fi, animation, documentaries. We have horror movies, right? Scary movies. So we understand that concept when we hear the word genre. Well, rhetorical patterns is the same idea. It's the same concept. It's just the term we use when we're referring to the categories of academic writing. So the kinds of essays that you would be writing in college classes, pretty much. So what do we do with that information? Okay, so that's what a rhetorical pattern is. It's the same thing as a genre. Well, the rest of that slide kind of breaks down why it's useful to think about rhetorical patterns. As readers, they're useful to us because if we know what type of essay we're about to read, it gives us a starting point. It gives us orientation, like we know what to expect. There are guideposts along the way, certain elements that should be included in this type of essay, right? We need to use that to our advantage as writers also. So we know we're working in a certain kind of rhetorical pattern. It gives us a strategy. It helps us focus and present our information in a way that readers will expect and understand, right? So I asked you when you clicked on the tab for the rhetorical patterns lesson, I asked you to take a few minutes before you went over the PowerPoint and watched this video to think about what you expect in a scary movie, right? So if someone tells you you're about to watch a horror film or some type of scary movie, what do you go into that movie expecting? What are some elements that you assume are going to be included in that movie? Your answers could have varied widely, but I know a lot of popular answers are, you expect suspense, you expect blood and gore, you expect a chase scene, you expect some setting, at least in part of the movie, where it's going to be in the woods at night. Maybe you expect an ending with a twist, right? Maybe you expect the supernatural or the paranormal, right? Ghosts and demons and things like that. So there are all kinds of different things that we might think of when we think of scary movies. But the point is we have those expectations. So if we go into a movie and we're told it's supposed to be a scary movie, right? But that movie does not contain enough of those elements that we're expecting, we're going to be disappointed when we walk out, right? We're going to think that was not a scary movie. right? That did not fit, my expectations at all. So somebody missed the mark there, right? That's why it's important as a writer to know what the expectations are for any rhetorical pattern that you might be asked to write in. You know, starting on slide 6 of the PowerPoint, I go through some of the most common types of rhetorical patterns that you're asked to write in at a college level. The first one is description, right? Description is using details from the 5 senses. That's pretty easy. So you're going to keep track. You're going to record everything that you're seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, tasting, and you're going to include that in your descriptive essay. And this would be an essay that is solely focused on description, right? You're going to use similes and metaphors, figurative language. It's going to be an essay that is solely devoted to description. So knowing that those are the expectations with a descriptive essay, you would then make sure that you include those when you write yours. The next slide talks about narrative essays. You actually will be writing a narrative essay for essay number 1. What does a narrative essay do? What are the expectations there? Well, it's going to describe a sequence of events and it's going to tell a story. You're going to use sensory details. So some of that information that you use for the descriptive essay, you're going to bring that into your narrative. It's not going to be overflowing with description, but you will use some of the descriptive details, some personal reflection, and maybe even dialogue. And that's to engage the readers and make the story come alive. But that expectation is there, that there's going to be some combination of those items used. And then there's the typical pattern of how a story is laid out, right? We all know how to tell a story. Or at least we all know what a good story is laid out like. The third type of essay I talk about is an evaluation essay. You're also going to be writing one of these. So what are the expectations for an evaluation essay? Well, the first thing it does is it evaluates, or in other words, it makes a judgment about a specific topic. It provides clearly defined criteria. You're going to use expert knowledge, examples, and personal experience to help support your judgment. And then you're going to make a recommendation to the reader, right? There's a few more that I go through in there. Definition, classification, cause and effect. That's a really common one. Comparison and contrast, also a very common one. So you can look through those slides and get a little more better idea of what each of those rhetorical patterns consists of, but I wanted to hit on description, narrative, and evaluation because you're going to be working with those this quarter, right? But the point is you want to know what is expected of you when you're asked to write in a certain rhetorical pattern, right? Now, there might be sometimes where you're not given a rhetorical pattern, you're just given a topic. Then it might be up to you to decide, well, what type of rhetorical pattern do I want to use? Then you have a little more freedom. You know, the topic that you've been given, or maybe you are given free reign, right? And you can do any kind of topic you want. Then you still have to decide, well, what is my point with this essay? What do I want to accomplish with it? And then look through all the different types of rhetorical patterns that are out there in college classes. And this was just a sample. There are more. These are just the most common ones. When you move into like composition 2, then you add on like research and argument and persuasion and things like that, maybe even analysis. But there's a slew of rhetorical patterns that can be used in academic essays. And if you're not given one as an assignment, then you get to choose which one works best for what you want to do in that essay. You don't have to have these memorized, but always remember that they're there to come back to and help you out along the way. So we will be using 2 of them in particular this quarter. And we will go into a lot more detail at that point what each essay is expected to have in it. But this was just a little introduction for you so that you start to understand that it's good to know what your readers will expect of you, because then that just helps you become a stronger writer.